Jessie folded her hands across her stomach. No, a beat. Then, I heard you're writing a novel yourself, Langston. Now that should be something to see. I've just barely started on it yet. A lie, you could say, since he hadn't started on it at all. What's it about? Madariaga had been watching the conversation quietly for a while, and the thick Spanish accent startled Langston, along with the directness of the question he had no ready answer for. It's about... Now everyone was real quiet and looking at him. It's about me, Kansas, I guess. I don't know. What it's like for someone to come to learn they live in a world where white folks hate Negroes, and Negroes hate white folks, and how you learn to live in that kind of world. Well, arguably all Negro literature is about that. Counting caught Langston's eyes in a flash like a Chicago drive-by. A novel needs a story. Well, it's like I say, County, I've barely started on it. No reason to get defensive, Langston. You might want to try outlining your plot first before you begin work on it. County makes a good point. Elaine was looking at Langston inscrutably. Langston figured he knew there was no work on the novel yet. Ah, who's defensive? Listen, look, the book's the story of our people, like my poems are the story of our people, like Georgia was just getting at. It's like a series of blues songs that tell a story. I can give you a piece from it now. Langston took a drink of gin, continued. There's this bluesman in it, and he sings a lyric. I'll recite that, if I may. By all means, said Jessie, please do. Langston hopped off the love seat and took center stage in the circle of the sofas. This is from a part in the book where folks are singing, laughing, and playing guitar, and this one bluesman starts in to sing in that down south gator gravel way they have. Here goes. Down in Louisiana, they got peppers around the rock. Down in Louisiana, where the peppers around the rock, there's a spicy little pepper, well, there ought to be a lot. The blind man told the preacher, preacher you cannot see. The blind man told the preacher, Lord knows you blind as me. The preacher told the blind man, your woman don't agree. I've traveled and I've traveled just to find a good old gal. I've traveled and I've traveled just to find a good old gal. Well, I've come across plenty of women, but ain't never had a cow. The sweeter is the juice, the blacker is the berry. Said the sweeter is the juice, the blacker is the berry. The coolest of my blues can warm up January. Langston beamed and sat down to laughter and applause. All of it was improvised, he even impressed himself. So that's what I have to say about that. You are the diplomat, said the diplomat. I've heard a lot about you, Langston Hughes. It's good to finally meet you and hear you read. Langston is a genius, said Jessie. No one's denying that. But here's my challenge. The black artist has had her image twisted and distorted by the white world ever since we were brought here. In order to participate in entertainment, black artists have had to pander to these stereotypes. Bert Williams was a genius too, but he was also an Uncle Tom. Suddenly no one was laughing anymore. So, as black artists, we have a responsibility to our people, Jessie continued. We have to consider whether our art hurts our race or helps the race. The white, the European artists, their concerns are necessarily different. But a Negro artist is a preacher and a poet at the same time, because after all, our preachers are poets, so our poets must be preachers. White people will always reward images of our people that conform with the idea of us as simple, shiftless, unsophisticated, unintelligent people. So long as we just dance and sing and laugh and drive and drink moonshine and gin, white folks are happy and call us great artists. But I'd like to see real artists who have the courage to challenge those conventions. For a while, no one said anything. The room went still and silent and just a little bit cold. Langston lit a cigarette. He opened his mouth to respond to Jessie and just closed it again in a petulant puff of smoke. Every time he thought to start, he worried he'd just sound naive. You could imagine Du Bois pulling some heavy history down from the shelf with a deep frown. Actually, Langston. Well, someone needs to speak for the low-down folks, Wally said after a while. We're not all talented Negroes. Well, we are, said Bruce, throwing his feet up on the table and gesticulating in an all-embracing manner. Bruce grinned a sleepy grin and sank into his oversized gray suit. He had no socks on and he was wearing dress shoes, so his bare ankles rested against the edge of the table. And Bruce is right about that much, said Jessie. You are not from a poor, uneducated, deep South family, Langston. You are a relative of John Mercer Langston and Charles Henry Langston. Even though you weren't well-to-do growing up, in your last book of poems you were simply aping people you know nothing about. Why don't you write something from the heart, something you know? After all, you yourself wrote in The Nation that no great artist is afraid to be yourself. Why not let real blues and jazz speak for the low-down folks? Elaine suggested helpfully with a delicious dollop of irony. Langston frowned. And in the meantime, we get these sensationalist novels, like Nigger Heaven of all things. Sure, they sell, but they do more harm than good. They're cheap, sentimental trash, perpetuating stereotypes, masquerading as art. And when Van Vechten deigns to show Negroes as acting civil, well, my God, he writes it like it's a revelation. Like some Negroes aren't savages, speak French, discuss ideas. He makes it seem unnatural, and that just makes us the exception that proves the rule. I can't stand him or that novel of his. Well, it wasn't so bad as all that. Not Carlo's best book, admittedly, but a noble effort, said Walter White. Jessie snorted. A noble effort indeed. It just goes to show everyone wants to be blacker than they really are. The white writers want to write about shines, and the black writers want to write about shines too. How can you glorify a social catastrophe and believe you hold to the standards of high art? High art, pie chart, said Bruce. Ain't you just mad at that book because you're Mary loving it? As for high art, I ain't never heard of the thing, and the fellow who coined such a concept must have been a high tart shirt. The Mary Love character is a grossly distorted caricature at best. Jessie Fawcett blushed cherry brown red. And Van Vechten certainly has no understanding of the inner lives of black women, which is precisely why the Negro artist has a responsibility to write honestly about herself. Van Vechten, as an overprivileged white man, isn't up to that task. Why don't you understand that you can't possibly separate culture from politics?